Okay, hi folks. I'm going to show you a little bit about landscapes today. So following up on our last tutorial, we're going to get into looking at height maps. We will get into looking at materiality, and we will also tackle adding foliage to our level. So this is what it looks like after a few quick moments, and we're going to dive right into this. So the first thing is that there are a number of files for you to utilize, to download in the description. There is a height map, which we'll utilize. There is a foliage folder, and there is a materials folder. You can use those on your own project, or if you'd like to follow along with the project that we've built in our other tutorials, I've also provided you a link to a full project file that I'm going to be using for our purposes here. Okay, so to get started, I'm just going to clean up what I have in my project. You won't need to do this, but I need to clear out what is looking so great in my project right now. I'm going to remove our landscapes. There we go. And I'm also just going to get rid of our foliage. Okay, so when you open the file, you're going to see something just like this. Now, what I want you to do before you open this file is pull up your, if you want to work with my project, go ahead and set it up, unzip it, and get it into your Unreal Epic Games launcher, showing up right here. Or if you want to work with your own file, you can do these next steps with your own file. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to say show in folder. That is going to pull up a file explorer window that is my project. I'm going to double click on content, and this is going to be where all of our assets are stored for this project. So I've downloaded the materials folder, and I've unzipped it to this location, and then I just want to double check that I don't have a materials inside of materials folder. That is sometimes a problem that people have, and I want to make sure that I don't have a foliage inside a foliage folder. When you start out, you should just have basic grass, and as we go through our steps, some of these other files are going to be created. Okay, so once those are dropped into your Unreal folder, you can go ahead and open the project. I find that this is the best way to get a lot of files into Unreal. With the change to Unreal 5, dragging and dropping things into Unreal typically doesn't work very well. It creates errors for your U asset files. Now, the height map that you're downloading, you want to just leave it wherever you're downloading it. And I'm going to just open a file explorer and make sure I have that one downloaded. Looks like I have not downloaded it myself, so I'm just going to go ahead and make sure. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to be able to find that in my downloads folder in just a second. So the first thing that we do is we go up to selection mode and we change to landscape mode. Now, oh look, it's accidentally trying to find my old file. All right. What I'm going to be doing here is, if you've already followed the other tutorial for landscapes, you know you can create a landscape and sculpt it. But what I'm going to be doing here is instead going to manage and new. And instead of creating new, I'm going to say import from file. And I'm going to click these three dots, which is going to allow me to find my height map, which should be in this folder. Let me figure out why it's not showing up. It is showing up in my downloads folder. Here we go. Height map. Open. And so what this is going to do is it's going to create a 63 by 63 quads, 1 by 1 section, and 18 components landscape, which is going to be huge, using a file, which is a grayscale PNG file that I've gotten from another tutorial that Epic Games handed out many years ago. But that was for 4.0, and I'm now showing you how to do it in 5.0. So it's going to take that height map, and all of the whites or all of the blacks or all of the grays are going to get assigned a height. I'm going to go ahead and just say import without changing any of the other settings. And it might take a second. We did this on the school computers and it took a significantly long time, something like 10 minutes. So don't be afraid if it takes a little while for this to get going. But when you're done, it's going to give you this amazing landscape. So height maps are super powerful. We do end up often getting weird artifacts from the triangles on your height map. So you do want to go back over and make sure you're smoothing some things out afterwards. But height maps can be super powerful, and you can download height maps for different parts of the globe, different parts of the real Earth. So you can recreate landscapes from the world in Unreal really easily with height maps. Okay, so I've used this height map, and it's completely out of whack with what I've built previously. Normally, what I would want to do is I'd want to create my landscape first, and then I would build all of my environment afterwards. But that's not the way that I'm teaching you in the sequence, because landscapes aren't always the first thing you want to learn. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to find my landscape object in my outliner. I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to go up to its location, and I could, I'm going to hit the W key. I could find the gizmo, which I'm not seeing on screen right now, and try and move this according to the gizmo. But I know from doing this previously that if I just type in 18,000 to the Z, that it's going to change it and get it kind of close to where I want it. Okay, so now this landscape is totally bumping into the stuff that I built previously. So one of the things that I can do here is I can use my sculpt tools to try and massage this landscape to work with the stuff that I've already built. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use sculpt, and I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm just going to press on this top spot and try and move it down to a spot where it's going to work for me. I'm going to increase my brush size, because your brush size is probably somewhere around 2000, and I'm working at 256. I'm going to do 1024, and I'm going to try and just push this down a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to get it to a height where at least one portion is working with my landscape. And then I'm going to use the flatten tool. And this is where I might actually go back down to something like 512. And I'm going to try and flatten out an entire area underneath what I've built already. And this is going to be the easy way to get these to engage with each other. Now I am creating a cliff face here, and I'm okay with that. And what I might want to do is I'm going to pull this up just a little bit more. That's looking really good. And then I'm going to flatten this whole area out. So again, I'm just clicking with my flatten tool, and I'm bringing it up to a height that's going to work with the stuff that I've already built. There we go. All right, so I've now integrated this previously built rectilinear component into this really organic landscape from my height map. And everything is looking pretty stellar. Now I'm going to go and try and paint. I'm going to click paint, and I'm going to try and paint this landscape to make it look like something. Now, before I can paint, I need to assign a material to this landscape. So I'm actually going to go to selection. I'm going to make sure that landscape, and I don't want to select any of these proxies, because the idea is the individual components of the landscape can be streamed, loaded for your graphics card individually. I'm going to select the overall landscape, and in my details tab, I'm going to scroll down until I hit landscape, and there's a landscape material. Now I can click the none, and if you've put the material tab the material folder into your project, if you type landscape into your project, you should get a landscape material. There we go. And nothing has actually been assigned to the landscape yet. Now, landscape material is pretty cool. It's pretty complex. I'm just going to double click on it. And that's going to open up my blueprints, which is going to show me that I have different functions that are connected to my landscape layer blend material. Now, the original Unity supplied material didn't have mud connected, but I've gone ahead and connected mud for you. If you're working with the original assets, and I'm going to link those in the description as well, you can actually go through the step of adding mud yourself by selecting landscape layer blend, hitting the plus, an additional element to the array, which will give you an unnamed layer. You can name it mud, and then going into your content drawer, if you go into the materials folder and into mud, there's going to be a function for mud, and you can just drag that up there, right? That's the same thing, and then you can just connect it to the new layer. I'm going to delete that because I've already done that for the one that I've given you. And I have had some issues where things have been going from 4.27, which is what the original Unreal file was for. I have had some things where it's shown up where the world position was miscorrelated to normal. So it's always handy if you're having problems to come in to the landscape material and just double check that everything looks like it's connected to the right spot. Okay, I don't need to actually apply there, but I did it anyway. But once I have a landscape material set to this landscape, I should be able to go to the landscape tab, and I should be able to go to paint, and hopefully you have grass, rock, and mud all showing up here. Now, I've already gone through this a few times on my own setting up this tutorial, so if I click that none, there should be a grass layer that I can select. That'll turn on grass for the entire landscape. There should be a rock layer I can select. And odds are there's not going to be a mud layer. And that's intentional because I want you to know how to turn this on. If I click Create Layer Info, it's going to prompt me for, do you want a weighted layer or do you want a non-weighted layer? A weighted blended layer is normal and asks you for somewhere to save. I'm going to save it into my materials folder. There we go. It's saving it right there. Clicking the content drawer to make that go away. And this weighted blend is really what allows you to be painting one material on top of another and have it blend those materials together. So what am I talking about? Well, if I select rock and I have paint selected, I can click somewhere with my brush and I'm going to start painting rock over the grass. I have a brush fall off, I have a brush size, and I also have a strength. So I can turn that really far down if I want to. And then as I paint, I'm only painting a tiny bit of rock. And if I turn that up, I'm going to be painting a lot of rock very quickly. So what I like to do here is I often go through, and actually 0.3 is a good place. I usually use a slightly larger brush size. Why don't we use 768 for now? My brush fall off is, let's use 0.25. I think it defaults to 0.5. I like to take all of the things that are really steep and say, odds are there's no grass growing on that. And I like to turn those into rock. Odds are there's no grass growing on that. Turn that into rock. Now mud really shows up more as dirt, and it can be a nice transition from rock to grass. So if we paint the zone in between there, or even if we paint that whole face, I can then go back over it with some rock, and then I can come back over the bottom part and I can repaint the grass. And that's going to give me a little bit of a blending from grass into our rock. All right, so I can do that. I can work through the entire map. I can paint things that are far away with my rock. I can paint things that are close with my rock. Let's get some of these far off things too. Let's actually turn up the brush size a little bit for working on those far off peaks. There we go. So I'm really just doing this quickly. A good landscape takes a very long time to work on. So if you're spending up to a week really getting that landscape to work for you, don't worry about it. It's going to pay off. These landscapes can be really, really beautiful. Okay. So this grass doesn't really look all that convincing. So to really good grass, we want to have foliage. And oh, look, I've got these. I'm going to remove these. That's from when I was setting this up. If you open this up, you should see foliage, drop foliage here. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go to our content drawer. We're going to close our material folder. We're going to go over to the foliage folder. And there should be a grass and a basic grass for you. If you double click your grass, I just want to point out, whenever I import the grass, it seems like the shader is broken. It shows a world grid material instead of the grass. So I just click that and I say grass and I select basic grass. And then that's going to take a second and it's going to start showing up kind of green. Wow, the camera's moving really fast. Let's save that and close it. And now if I take that grass and I drop it where it says drop foliage here, it's going to prompt me for saving as a grass foliage type. I'm going to try and save it here. It's not going to let me because it already exists. So I'm just going to put 2. You shouldn't have to do that because I'm going to try and clear that out for you. And now I can start painting grass. So as I click, it starts applying grass all over the place. Now you have a brush size and you also have a paint density. So if you want to paint more grass faster, then you can turn that up. But the grass is like grass should be. It's really, really small and short. And as I paint grass all over this, what if I accidentally get grass somewhere? I shouldn't have grass growing out of the rock. So I can hold shift and I can click and that's going to erase where I've previously painted grass. So right now I have 585 instances of grass painted. I can paint more and keep this going. But what I also like to do here is I like to transition to something that's a little bit more visible. So if I go to content drawer, if you have your starter content in props, there is a small, I always think SM for small, but it's a static mesh of a bush. So I can drag that static mesh of a bush, drop it here. It's going to ask me to have a new foliage type. I'm going to save that in foliage. And I'm going to call it 2 because I already have one. And now, whenever I paint, I'm going to be painting grass and bushes. But if I unclick one of these, I'm only painting bushes now. So there we go. I'm painting bushes all over. It's 170. I can just go ahead and add a whole bunch more. And then if I accidentally add bushes somewhere where they don't make sense, I can always hit shift and I can delete them. Delete them from inside the building. Maybe I don't want to have them out here quite as much. That's maybe a little bit too heavy-handed. The other thing that I can do is I can go through and I can also select individual bushes and I can delete them individually one by one. I'm just hitting the delete key. Oh. What's going on? It's not letting me select that one. I'm not sure why it's not letting me select that one. Is it because it's overlapping another object that it thinks I'm trying to select? Worst comes to worst, I can always apply them a little bit more. I'm doing painting when I do that. I can always turn my brush size way down and then come in and hold the shift key and delete that one. So whatever works best for you, but there's a lot of variety of opportunity there. So that's looking pretty good. Maybe I need some more bushes over here. Let's turn that back up. Whoa, that's way too large. Let's add a couple more over here. Oh, that's because it's such a steep face. I should really paint that over to rock. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And you're not limited to using just plant life, I could also say, what about door frames? Let's paint some door frames in here. Save this in foliage. Save. Let's turn off this. Let's turn on door frames. And now I can paint some door frames. That doesn't make any sense to me. Let's delete those. Let's maybe turn the paint density way down. And now I'm just going to paint some door frames all over the place. Now, the unfortunate thing about these door frames is we know from our other tutorial that they're too small for me to walk through. So that's going to create a hassle. But yeah, if you wanted to create a garden of art, that would work. The way that I use this very often is if I'm doing urban scenes and I want to have a little bit of trash, a little bit of refuse, some aluminum cans, some newspapers, things like that. I can just paint those around the scene really quickly and really easily. It's a really powerful tool, not only for painting natural elements, but for painting some things that might be man-made as well. Okay, so there we have it. We've created a landscape, really nice landscape, really enormous landscape with our height map really quickly and easily. We have painted the landscape using our landscape paint mode using grass, rock, and mud. And we've also gone back over it and we have painted some foliage, which includes some very small grasses. There we go. There's our small grasses. Some nice bushes that are static. They will not blow in the wind. And we've also painted some man-made objects with those door frames. So a little bit more of a detailed explanation of how to tackle landscapes, but hopefully this has been useful for you. Let me know if you have any questions or any requests, and I hope to see you again on the channel soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.